Hello everyone and welcome to the second to last of our videos of our time together. There's for our health and wellness class here at Concordia for Kinesiology 344. Perhaps it's somewhat because of COVID, because we are separate from each other in a health and wellness class that we have to do this from a distance versus being in person. Perhaps it's the end because it's the end of my first year at Concordia, a first full year. Perhaps because of the relationships I enjoyed starting to build in our class together. But I'm feeling particularly nostalgic and a little down that more so than in previous sessions together because we're coming to a close. Especially when we're talking about spiritual and total well-being, I really wish we could do this in person. I've struggled all day today with trying to put this together for what is the second to last lecture with reasonable content to be able to tie together such a monumental concept or conglomeration of concepts together to bring it kind of a form a whole for spiritual and total well-being. And I struggled with it all day, not to mention the fact that my daughter has made my life very difficult time-wise today. She doesn't make my life difficult at all. She makes it difficult just in terms of being able to focus. And I have no doubt she'll be interrupting our video at any time because it's just impossible to do so otherwise. And I'm trying to be done with my midnight 1 a.m., 2 a.m. filmings, which I've done before, and I'm trying to avoid doing that now. But unfortunately, it means the reality that there can be challenges with content. A moment before I turned this video on to be able to record this, my daughter came up behind me, and I didn't even hear her coming. And she just walked up behind me knowing I'm filming without really fully understanding because she's 4. And she gets right up next to me and she says, "Are you still talking to your computer?" And, if that had happened when I was filming, I think I'd have been done. I think I would have to say good night, goodbye, I'll talk to everyone later. I was laughing for 5 straight minutes. The reality of having a cute little one running around can really throw you for a loop sometimes, and usually for the positive, hopefully in general, that's the case. Welcome to life, once again, right? Very apt, all things considered, with everything going on, let alone in terms of overall health and wellness, a part of life. That being said, I will do the best that I can here to tie together some of our concepts for spiritual and other aspects of well-being, specifically relating to 3 of the other 6 leading up to spiritual well-being, and trying to tie them together a little bit. And then our final lecture being the video I'll create for the first part of next week, the only other one I will do, allowing you otherwise having time for your paper, your project, and your final quiz and discussion board post. Is going to hopefully tie together the best as can be, at least from my perspective, the best that I can do. And I want to be humble in that respect, to give it the recognition it deserves, at the same time to realize the difficulty in tying it all together in a perfect whole is always going to be a near impossible task. And I also realized a moment ago, decided just to go with it. I'm wearing the exact same shirt I was wearing for the last video. I swear this has not been a 48-hour thing where I'm wearing the same t-shirt. It actually got washed, but I grabbed it again today. For some reason, it's the first thing I grabbed off the top. I promise it's a clean shirt. Okay. I'm not living that much in challenge times where I don't even change my clothes after 3 days. That being said, let's tie together some ideas of spiritual and total well-being. Talking about reminding ourselves, I should say, spiritual well-being is the essence of being, with the ability to experience and integrate meaning and purpose in life through a person's connectedness with ourselves, with others, and our relationships, which we'll talk about in a moment here. And ultimately, whether it's through art, music, literature, nature, or something greater than ourselves, right? Or more importantly, something greater than ourselves, providing value to our lives. And the question becomes then, how does spiritual well-being help encompass and add value, meaning, and purpose to the other areas of well-being, to our total well-being, specifically in other areas? And we're going to talk in this brief lecture about physical well-being, how spiritual well-being and physical well-being are connected, emotional well-being to spiritual well-being, and of course, social interpersonal well-being. And then the other 3, the vocational, the financial, and the intellectual well-being will be our primary concepts in our final video together for the first part of next week. So referring first to physical well-being, we're in a kinesiology class, so of course we started our unit. It seems like so long ago, and yet it also seems like yesterday, and talking about the connection with physical well-being to total well-being. And of course, in terms of experiencing spirituality and connection to God, when we exercise, is an exercise using our body and using it fully in its capabilities. Isn't that what was given to us by God? I've always thought that. I don't know when it started. I don't know if it started because of going to church as a young child, if it was just something that was in me, if it was because of the people I was around, probably all the above. But I've always felt that taking care of my body and exercising it, using it, I don't just have, I may have said it in this class, I'm pretty sure I have, and I want to say it now if I haven't said it. I don't think we're not ahead with just enough something to be able to do a little bit of work here and there. A lot of people use their bodies like it's nothing but a brain and some fingers to put food to our mouth, or put your hands on a keyboard, when there's so much more that we could be doing with our body, not just in terms of serving physically other people, but specifically by utilizing our body, our brains work better. Right? We have a greater capacity to do more. We have more energy, more ability to be healthy and live longer, ideally, from being healthy and not from premature death from something happening to us. But ultimately, the more physically well we feel, the more we can give to other people. I don't think that's talked about enough. Now, the concern I think a lot of people have when it comes to exercise, other than the fact that it's difficult if you don't normally do it and it has been a part of your life since you first could remember back when you were a child, is that some people feel that exercising takes them away from God, away from doing what they need to do, because it's time focused too much on self, when I think that's unfortunate that a lot of people do feel that way. But if that is the case, there's always working out or exercising with other people. That's a perfect opportunity. If someone really was having that much of a concern, I'd say, where do you go to church? Why don't you get a few people from your church and get something together with them, so you can actually be getting both that connection with community through church and exercise. There are ways to do it if we feel like we're being too much focused on ourselves. We're not talking about being self-absorbed from the idea of worrying about whether your body fat is 5% or 6%. Matter of fact, that's always bothered me as a personal trainer, as a coach, as a fitness person, as a former collegiate athlete, all those things. I've always been bothered by people being obsessed with their body fat and what muscles they can see. I've never liked that. Rarely is the best athlete, let alone for our competitor, the one that's necessarily the most striated anyway, unless we're talking about bodybuilding specifically, a given sport. From a standpoint of wellness and well-being and exercise, we're talking about giving ourselves at least the bare minimum to be healthy enough whereby we can make the most of ourselves, so we can connect better with God by connecting better with other people, being more focused, and getting more from what we do. I'm often thought the times when I was exercising or in sport or in competition with other people, and my hope is that as we enjoy the game of it, the play of it, and I do believe that God wants us to play, actually physically play, not just mentally or emotionally challenge ourselves, but physically do work and play and enjoy our bodies from a standpoint of exercise. When I'm in the zone, if you've ever been in the zone in sport where you couldn't miss, you couldn't seem to get tired, you're running faster than you ever ran before, seemingly effortlessly or whatever it was, that in the zone, I've always felt like that was a greater connection to God in that moment. I always felt like I was almost meditating or praying in those moments when it happened, looking back, sometimes actually being aware of it in the moment, when it's pretty impressive when you can actually do that. You're performing well and you can think about things like that. But a lot of times it's also later when that happens. But isn't a healthy body helping us? Doesn't mean you have to have a healthy body to have a healthy soul. That's not the same thing. But if you already are pursuing a healthy soul and you have a healthy body, doesn't that add more? Give us more, the opportunity to do more, be more? That's the way I've always felt about it. And it is exercise in itself, as I've kind of mentioned, perhaps a form of meditation, a form of communication with God, when performed well for the right reasons. One of my favorite movies, Chariots of Fire. Eric Liddell said, I believe that God made me for a purpose, but he also made me fast. And when I run, I can feel his pleasure. I've always felt that way with running. I've also felt this way with sport, that you can use it as a way to communicate, as a way to commune or be a part of something greater than ourselves, not just the exercise in itself. And of course, competing with others, playing that game, provides us the ability to be with each other. It's an opportunity. Game playing, being competitive in the right way, hopefully. We want to win, sure, but in a positive way. I've always been amazed sometimes at people who are otherwise good people who seem to bring out their bad side when we play games and sport. I think that's unfortunate. I think that's forgetting ourselves when at the time we're involved in sport. Wanting to win, wanting to be the best, wanting to get the most out of a situation, as long as we are not doing it at the detriment of someone else, I think is key. I think it's very key. Another great quote from a movie that I really enjoy, Legend of Bagger Vance, was Hardy Graves, not Greaves, but Graves, basically saying that they say that God is happiest when his children are at play. I remember looking that up and I couldn't find it anywhere else other than the way it was said in the movie, but I thought that was great. I do believe that's the case. I'm the most enjoying life when my daughter is happy and running around like crazy and just being giddy and happy with things without even knowing why. And that play is important. Weight and body composition, kind of already alluded to it. We want to live a longer and healthier, happier life, not be worried about your specific body fat so much as we don't want anyone's body mass, body composition to affect them in such a way they leave us too soon. They become ill and unable to do good works, unable to communicate with other people, unable to be a part of life. To me, that's the biggest reason to be pursuing a healthy body weight, healthy body composition. Nothing more than that. Everything else there can be somewhat, a little bit too gratuitous at times. There's no question about it. That's individual, something for us not to be judging, but at the same time, we have to make sure what our purpose is and what we're really pursuing when we pursue such levels, right? Nutrition, fasting can be a form of focus, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't feed ourselves in general. Fasting is something we do in some religions, in some aspects of religion. In Christianity, we have times where we fast. Other religions do it for different periods in different ways. But it doesn't mean you should fast as a whole on your whole life and not give yourself what your body needs. That's a mistake, and some people do mistake that. Don't mistake that for purpose and tradition at times versus a part of who we are as a whole and giving our body what we need in terms of nutrition. And poor nutrition can lead to illness, and it takes us away from our ability to do work and to work and fulfill God's expectations for us. And if we don't get enough sleep, another aspect of physical health, can we really focus on what's important? If we don't get enough rest, if we're chronically tired, I know for one, when I'm chronically tired, I'm not much use to anybody. I don't have the ability to focus. And while some people live their lives on low sleep and can still perform well, at the end of the day, the more rested they are, theoretically, shouldn't they be able to do more? There's always a give and take, like so many things. Hygiene, medical health checkups, and taking care of ourselves from a health perspective as a whole, and not spreading disease and illness has great applications to now. One of my greatest challenges is not been judging others when I see people not caring about whether they live their lives in quarantine or not, and actually going out and just being around people all the time and not even caring, saying, I'm healthy, I'll be fine. Yeah, but we're spreading it. And that's not thinking of other people, right? So hygiene is not just a matter of thinking of ourselves, but also thinking of other people as well, how we can affect them with what we can spread to them, not just in these times, but any time. Why our health can absolutely play a role in how it affects other people and not just ourselves. So there's another reason, another rationale for being healthy and getting our medical checkups. One of my favorite things to think too, I've often mentioned to family members when someone says, and I've had people in my family say this, well, I'm just getting old. And they just kind of throw caution to the wind and don't take care of themselves. I thought, well, what about being around for me? What about being around for your sister, your other children, and whoever, right? It's more than just us. Our health is more than just us. And that connection to God is crucial that we understand that and taking better care of ourselves. And it also has to do with also harmful substance intakes, taking things that actually can cause us harm, drinking too much, smoking, in general, any sort of other drugs, anything that can be addicting can take us away from our purpose and what we're trying to do in the benefit, how we can benefit God and benefit other people. Emotional well-being and how spiritual well-being fits into that. Emotional well-being we talked about before is the ability to control your thoughts, and this is really key. You can control your thoughts. Your initial thought, you don't control that. It had just something came in your head, right? But we can control where that goes. We talked about it's the questions you ask yourself. So in that moment, you could either just go with that thought, or when that thought comes into your head, whatever it might be, you're trying to focus on your homework and your boyfriend or girlfriend's calling, or you're thinking about them, and nothing wrong with that, but it might take you away from what you're trying to do, what to accomplish. So rather than being upset or bothered or stressed about it, simply asking yourself, Is it necessary that I think about that right now? What's the best thing I can do with my time right now? Should I take a break? Is it better for me to take a break and maybe give them a call? Ask ourselves better questions. None of those are better or worse questions. It's very individual in the given moment. But typically speaking, and there's a lot of research to support this, that ultimately what we say to ourselves, how we talk to ourselves in those moments, are what affects our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors. And so how we frame things in our heads, maybe it's outwardly and actually say what we say to ourselves, actually physically speak versus actually what we think, but we have the ability to impact that. And that said, to have emotional well-being and the questions we ask ourselves and how we present things to ourselves, and when a situation comes up, how we react to those situations and how it affects us emotionally, the ability to be resilient is crucial, the ability to bounce back from adversity. And we're also better to find this through our connection with God and remembering our purpose, remembering what we're here for, what we're trying to accomplish. So even though in the moment things are challenging, which can happen in a lot of moments, but remembering that it's important for us to bounce back because we have greater things to accomplish, greater things to do, more important things to be looking at greater for our meaning down the road, and not just what we see in this moment. Easier said than done, unquestionably, right? But something we must do. Our positive outlook, we don't want to confuse positive with being unhappy and ignoring what's going on around you. There's a difference. Positive outlook is trying to find positive or proactive things you can do in difficult situations. How can you make the current situation better? What can you be doing to help solve the problem rather than just bringing up more issues and challenges and concerns? I've seen this numerous times in familiar relationships, friendships, workplace, school, where it's too easy to become focused on what you don't like rather than focusing on the fact that sometimes you have to just get things done, whether you like it or not, because there's some other reason beyond maybe what you can currently see. Recognizing there's got to be a reason. I remember hearing someone say one time that he liked to think about, I can't remember who it was that said it, but I remember hearing it distinctly, someone I knew long ago, saying that he'd like to think that whenever someone's doing something, they have a good reason for doing it. And it allowed him to better frame the possibilities from the current situation rather than limitations. You can't control everything, but you can control how you look at things. And when you open yourself up to more possibilities and more the possibility that things could be going, maybe there is a purpose in doing this, you allow yourself to do a much better job at whatever you're doing, much more effective, much more efficient at it. We're all sinners. None of us are perfect, ever will be. We're all fallible, yet God expects us to move forward, right? Improving your attention and mindfulness, being in the moment and aware. Wandering makes people unhappy. When you let your mind wander too much away from what you need to be focusing on, and thinking about what happened in the past or what we're going to be doing in the future, it takes us away from God. Now is God. When we're in the now and actually really able to focus on the most important thing in the now, that is unquestionably getting us closer to God, as long as we ultimately remember what our purpose is and what we are always trying to seek it, I should say, is a better way of looking at that. We all have our individual needs, our own wants, and how we see ourselves playing a greater role in the world. I don't think it ever stops asking that question. I don't care what position of anyone we're talking about. Everyone should be always asking themselves, what is my purpose here right now? What am I doing right now? We need to bring ourselves back to being in the moment and making the most of where we are with what we have. That said, generosity of spirit, being happy for others' success is something I've always struggled with, but that's ultimately what we should be doing, right? Does it really affect us negatively if we're happy for someone else? It's hard when we're maybe a little jealous. I think jealousy is very much a human trait and very normal. It's when we often give great deals of effort and work towards something, and then we fall short and we don't understand why, and someone else is getting accolades or benefit from something that we don't think they deserve as much as or more than we do. It's a very human, normal trait. It's okay to feel that way. It's what we do when we feel that actually matters. Being able to, from a simple standpoint, almost going back more to the physical well-being, in a game situation, playing in sports, the idea that you can go over and congratulate someone after they've beaten you. It doesn't mean you're happy about the result. It doesn't mean you think they're better than you are. They won. You say, nice job, and you move on. And next time you try to keep that from happening because you want to be the one that wins that game or whatever the purpose might be. ultimately being happy for other people's success, but seeking and always seeking and striving to be improving ourselves at the same time. It can be synonymous, or I should say it can happen at the same time. And of course, expressing kindness and finding support in others while supporting them when we are most challenged is when we need to be helping other people. Whenever you're feeling the most helpless, feeling like you can do the least, that is the time that is the most important to help someone else. We're stuck. We don't know where to go. We can't seem to figure out how we're going to improve our situation. That's when you need to get up from wherever you are and to look for a reason, for a way, somehow, to help someone else. Maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's something physical, maybe it's something around your house and cleaning up the house so everybody else is happy, even though you're in a bad mood and upset at something that's going on with you. Finding some other way to contribute and give to someone else is the best way to heal, to connect with God, to improve ourselves in the most challenging moments. Sometimes what we're wanting to improve is what we cannot have any control over. So find something else we can control that contributes in some way, and oftentimes we find that either we come to better coping with the situation that we're having challenges with, or something opens up and we find a new way in and we're able to deal with that situation in a better way and maybe actually reach what we were hoping for in the first place, or at least come to a better understanding of a different way about doing things. Never cease to amaze me when I actually can get myself or get someone else to stop what they're doing, if they're limited in progress in whatever they're doing, and find some other way of helping and assisting, serving others, and ultimately then doing the works of God is the best way to get yourself through any difficult situation. I don't think you get any more clear than that from a general perspective anyway, right? And our final little connecting point, trying to connect our social and personal well-being to spiritual well-being, tying it together for our third unit we covered this semester. If we recall, we talk about social and interpersonal well-being involving building healthy, nurturing, and supportive relationships and fostering genuine connections with others. Certainly that's something we should be doing with God, and we want to be doing it on an ongoing basis. Like everything we've talked about this semester and well-being as a whole, it is a process. I don't like it when people say, oh, it's just a process. It's a matter of a process. Being dismissive. Being dismissive is never a good thing unless there is clarity that's brought after being dismissive and saying, what I mean to say is, but being dismissive is actually not understanding or not showing empathy, not showing recognition of someone else's situation. That's not thinking of someone else. Right? We don't want to be dismissive. So we don't want to say everything in balance. Everything in balance, sure, but what's the balance? There's no exact number of anything or value of anything. So that's a really broad statement to make, and it's not wrong, but I always want to hear clarity from someone what they mean by that when they say it. When we want to foster genuine connections with other people, we need to be thinking about, in a given moment, not just what we want, but how we can best serve everyone else. In the movie A Beautiful Mind, with Nash, basically the primary character in that story, in that movie. All of a sudden, but his first name is eluding me for some reason. I want to say Russell because it's Russell Crowe, but for Nash, I'm losing his first name. He actually, when he comes up with his idea, he actually came up with it in a bar when there was a bunch of women and these guys were all sitting around a table, and he realized that to get what they all wanted, which was to have a date with the girl that they wanted to have a date with, from a very primal perspective in male and female relationships. But he realized that for all of us to get what we want, we have to think of both in terms of what we want individually and what would be best for the group as a whole. And when we can best find a solution that helps us and helps other people, we are all more likely to get the thing that we want. It was a beautiful competitive theory that won a Nobel Prize for him, recognizing that we get more out of, and it was really a great analogy to what we're talking about here. We get more out of life when we're not just looking for our own interests, but how we can both benefit ourselves and others at the same time as when we all win, and we ultimately get more out of that. And that is the argument, and I think it's a darn good theory at that. That said, when we're at work, how much more efficient, effective, and overall productive are we when we're connecting with other people at work? It doesn't mean we go and talk about nothing, although sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need to take a little mini break and take 5 minutes from work and go talk to someone about nothing, come back to work. Helps us reset, recharge, come back. Sometimes it means going to someone else at work and asking for help. I'm always amazed as a teacher, as an instructor, as a professor, through my many years teaching at elementary, high school, junior high, now collegiate level, adult vocational education, anywhere from the elementary grades all the way to late adulthood. I've taught various subject areas to numerous people, and it always amazes me when someone doesn't simply ask for help. They later on complain and get upset, and to me, there's no excuse for any of us to find fault with someone when we have not given them the opportunity to help us. Have we really given them the opportunity to help us? If we've not done so, we really have no right to be complaining about it. Right? From an overall wellness perspective, well-being, for our own well-being, we need to be doing that. And for the opportunity to do what we're supposed to be doing, which is helping other people. We're giving someone else the opportunity to help us, to rectify maybe something there where they're not doing very well, but by us pointing out concerns and maybe asking for help in a way that actually is not causing them to lose face or lose their position or affect them negatively. We have to be thinking about that too when we bring up criticism, when we actually do want to contribute in a way by actually bringing up questions that are either meant to help us or help the person we're trying to talk to. We have to be thinking in terms of good for us and good for them, and in a way that's not going to negatively impact them by bringing up the wrong time, the wrong place. That's, to me, something what certainly that God expects of us, to be thinking in a much broader perspective about situations, not just what we want in that moment, right? With friends, isn't it easy to be more ourselves when we're with people we really care about? True of friends and family both, but in this case, family, we are absolutely a part of. That's something we're connected with, either who we live with, or who a family we're born into, or we were from the moment we were born, or certain points in our lives. But friends can sometimes come and go, and there's only a few that stay with us through our lives. I have only one friend from high school that I connect with on a regular basis consistently. I have people that here and there I talk to, but I only have one college, one high school that I talk to with any great regularity. And it doesn't bother me that I don't have more of them. I haven't pursued it, but I know I could pick it up with a lot of other people and connect with them if I wanted to. And I would certainly do so if they wanted to connect with me. That being said, isn't it more or clearly a situation where we're connecting with God? We have those few people that we most connect with. Don't you feel closer to God? Don't you feel like you could do more and help more and be more when you're around those people? And that's exactly what friends should be doing for us and what we should be doing for them. And that, in its own unique way, is doing God's work. And then lastly, home and family. And as a father, as a husband, and as a person who, getting at 49 and going to be 50 this year, I don't feel old, but when I remind myself that I'm 49, almost 50, it's not young. It's not old, but it's not young. I'd like to think I'm not even halfway through life. I'll be 110, 115. That's my goal. That's my goal, 110, 115, okay? Maybe 120, okay? That being said, everyone that I've ever talked to who's ever been around someone at the time of their passing has always said the same thing, that what were they most proud of, or what do they most regret or wish they could have done more, if that question comes up, or they bring it. No one asks the question, to be clear. They bring it up. The person who's passing, if they have the opportunity to relate or talk to someone in their last moments, and they know it's their last moments, it's the same thing every time. They talk about the people they were closest to, wishing they could have done more with them, and how proud they are, with those who have to have children, how proud they are of their children, having had the chance to have children and be with them. The opportunity to raise someone, to be a part of a family, is possibly the greatest gift God gave us as human beings, to be helping the people closest to us that are part of us, physically a part of us, from our blood, right? Or from whose blood we are from. And the opportunity to build, establish a healthy and happy family, certainly from my perspective and the perspective of many, is perhaps our greatest impact we can have upon our world as we know it. And whether that's through, if someone never does marry, never has children, then it's the friend relationships that are essentially their family, or a part of their family that they grew up in. Either way, making that impact, there is no greater impact than the people closest to us and helping them to live a healthier, happier, more beneficial life towards serving others, towards serving each other, and remembering why we are here, which is to do God's work, to be with one another. Serving one another, unquestionably in my mind, is the greatest way to be doing God's work. That said, always so much more that could be said. I hope that I've given at least some food for thought, things to grow on. I think every class should theoretically be a foundation or something to build from, to learn more from, to realize there's more. Whenever I would love it if I found later on you told me that every class we ever had together, you actually had more questions after the class because you wanted to know more, not because, okay, I'm kind of unclear on this part, but actually wanted to know more. To me, that's the best that can be hoped for in any class. I hope that's that's what we're getting out of this class. That's my hope. Okay. We have one more class. If you have questions, you want things covered, or you're curious about, whether it's my perspective or clarity on concepts that maybe something needs to be clarified more, please email me questions. And want to cover as much as possibly can in a beneficial way that benefits us, not just for this class, for the purposes of curriculum at Concordia University, the Christian Lutheran University, for our connection with God, connection to ourselves and our own well-being, but for ongoing in the rest of our lives. I truly mean that. I want this to be beneficial to you in many, many, many years to come. I don't care if you remember whether Professor Baines said it as part of your health and wellness class. I just want to know it was part of it. Okay? Be well, take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you at least one more time.